he wasn't helping himself with the way he was sort of talking about it.
We're here with Sir Andy Murray for an exclusive interview ahead of the Queen's Championships this week. Your grass court season starts 14th of June at Queen's, of course. What are you anticipating learning about yourself as you make that grass comeback?
I mean, I just want to try and be healthy for a period, to be honest. And I haven't actually. Today I played my first set of grass court singles tennis since 2018. So it's been 3 years since I played a set of tennis on the grass. So yeah, I don't know what to expect in terms of my performance, but I'm looking forward to playing back in front of British crowd again, and yeah, hopefully I can perform well.
What is the one goal though? Just to stay healthy? Is that?
Yeah, I mean that's the main goal, because I think that if I can do that, I will get good results, because I've been practicing well and I'm playing well, and but I just haven't been able to stay on the court long enough to build up any momentum or anything. So yeah, I need to just focus on that and not sort of. Maybe I was a little bit guilty of that at the end of 2019 after I came back, was that physically I was feeling quite good, and I think me and my team, we sort of took it for granted and thought, well, this is going to be fine, and it hasn't been like that, because the metal hip, there's a lot of it's a big change, and like the biomechanics and stuff around the hips and everything is changed, and around the pelvis, and I need to be like really on top of that with the details and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I learned over the last year or so.
But winning the men's doubles at Queen's 2 years ago, what was the most rewarding moment for that tournament for you?
It was surreal, really. I mean, certainly wasn't expecting to win. Me and Feli only decided to play like kind of a week before the tournament. I'd never played doubles with him before, and yeah, it was. I mean, he ended up winning the singles as well. It was like
he was a tired boy.
Yeah, that was the thing, is that he was like, he's not saying he's old, but you think he was like 36 at the time. And he was playing like long singles matches. He'd come into the locker room and I'd be like looking at him, and he'd be like sitting like this, and we were like going on in 10 minutes, and then he would come out and play unbelievable. And yeah, it was really nice. Like after the tournament, like we went out for dinner all like with their teams and everything, and usually like when like I've won a tournament in the past, like you're just celebrating it alone with your own team. But like that was for him, like winning Queen's was the biggest tournament that he'd won in singles, and yeah, like he was pumped and had all of his team and some of his family there with him. So it was nice sort of sharing a successful moment with someone else and their team.
But there were some beautiful moments with the crowd as well. What will it be like playing in front of fans again?
Yeah, I think it'll be great. I mean, not just for me, but I think for all the players. Like the last year, it's been difficult for everyone, obviously, and sport relies so much on the fans, and I think tennis a lot. Like when we got back to playing in September in New York, like I didn't actually mind that there wasn't fans, because I was just so excited to get to play tennis again and get to compete. But then with each kind of week that passed and each month that passed, it just became like, it's just quite flat, and it was sad, like being at all of the tournaments with no one there. So it'll be nice. Hopefully they'll be allowed some decent crowds and be a good atmosphere.
2 of your 3 Grand Slams are on grass. What is it about that surface that brings out the best in your performance?
So I think like grass is probably the surface that of all the players, like not that many of them play well on it. I think because no one trains on it growing up, and grass is really kind of have some grass courts in the States, but most of them are in the UK. There's a few of them dotted around elsewhere, but I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is, but I always like the transition going on to grass courts. Like I've always felt like it's very natural for me, the surface, I think, because the way I hit the ball, I don't play with that much spin, and yeah, when you play on grass, flatter shots tend to be a little bit more effective. Whereas like when I go onto clay courts, that takes me quite a long time to adjust. You know, I need to practice for a good sort of 3-4 weeks before I feel comfortable on it with grass. Like, yeah, when I got on the grass course a couple of weeks ago for the first time, it just felt, just I adjust to it very quickly, and I don't know why that is. It just obviously suits my game.
So can you relate to when Daniil Medvedev, for example, talks about clay as he does? Can you relate to that as you go to clay or not?
I mean, I don't think he wasn't helping himself with the way he was sort of talking about it, because he obviously ended up doing well at the French Open and could play well on clay. But yeah, I mean, I understand, like, yeah, certain surfaces for players are just more difficult, and the clay was always the most challenging one for me. It was always the hardest one to get used to, and he obviously finds it the same.
So Roger Federer pushed himself to the limit, it must be said, at Roland Garros, and you took to Twitter to just say how inspiring that was for you. What did it do for you mentally as you prepared to make your grass comeback?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was so, like, it was just so cool to see, because you know, he just come off the back of 2 surgeries, hadn't played for 18 months. You know, he's won pretty much everything there is to win. Like, you know, he's unbelievably well respected by everyone in sports, and yeah, just seeing him like out there playing like after midnight in front of an empty crowd and like seemingly loving doing it, it was just like, yeah, I just think it was a great message for anyone really, that it's like, it doesn't matter how successful you are, like, yeah, just do what you love doing. And yeah, I think it's sort of easy sometimes, I think, for sports people to forget that and think like, oh, you know, there's lots of pressure on us or whatever, and you know, this is just our job now. But it's not very fortunate to do it, and it's the reason why most of us started playing in the first place, is because we love doing it.
And we did see Roger retire, of course, and something that you agreed with. This is your chance now. What would you like people to understand about how much of an impact tennis has on a player's body?
Yeah, I mean, it can. Obviously, the players are playing a little bit longer now than they used to. But yeah, I mean, I've been through it and experienced it myself. Obviously, that I've had some big operations, and it's tough, difficult being injured. And yeah, I just said after Roger retired, like, some people thought it was not a good thing to do or the right thing to do. But it's like, we don't have that luxury of kind of, you know, when we come back just playing 1 set and then the following week playing 2 sets and just building up that way like you do in some other sports. And at some stage you have to go out there and play, and you know, when you're coming back off the back of 2 surgeries and haven't played for 18 months, you have to be a little bit reactive as to how you feel or how long the match is. And you know, maybe his body was sore or his knee was hurting, and the right thing for him to do was to rest. And yeah, I respect that decision. If he'd gone out to play in the next round and hurt his knee again, people might have been saying, stupid decision, you know, he probably should have withdrawn. So I trust he's always made pretty smart decisions, I think, with his scheduling, and it's one of the reasons why he's played until he's I think he's 40 in August. It's pretty amazing.
Okay, to your other slam victory, the US Open in 2012, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about that slam?
Like relief, probably. I think I was so relieved, like, to finally win one. I was so nervous before that match,
yeah.
Probably, and I remember it because after I finished practicing, I went back into the locker room. It's a huge locker room in New York. You know, obviously everything in the States, you know, is all huge. It's a huge locker room, and it's completely empty. Obviously, at the end of the tournament, you know, the last match is the men's singles final. It's played in the evening, and I went back into the locker room with my team, and they went upstairs to grab some food, and I was just sitting in the locker room, and I was like shaking, like, you know, I was like so nervous about playing the match, and I'd lost my first 4 Grand Slam finals, and you know, no one had ever lost their first 5 before, so I was like thinking about that. I didn't want to be that guy. And yeah, I remember calling a psychologist that I was working with at the time, like, to speak to her, and she didn't answer, and I was like so gone. And it was interesting. I didn't want to message my team and tell them like, please come back down. Like, I'm really nervous. And I think it's just quite interesting because in sport, like, you're not supposed to show that. Like, you're not just supposed to show that you're struggling or that you're nervous or any of those things. So, because it's like seen as being like a sign of weakness, and I didn't want to like tell my team that I was basically crapping myself before this match. So I was just sort of sitting there, just dealing with it like in the locker room, not dealing with it well. But yeah, and then thankfully, yeah, obviously once I got out there, it was okay. You know, it's normally the case. It's normally the waiting that's the bad part. But then, yeah, managed to get over the line.
Meditation wasn't a part of your...
It was not. No, it was not.
What did you want to ask your psychologist?
Well, I think just wanted like someone to talk to, like to vent and just say, like tell her like this is how I feel. Like I feel like this, and just to have someone who's trained and knows how to help you deal with those emotions or whatever at the time. And yeah, and obviously wasn't dealing with it well. But I think, you know, when I ended up talking to my coach about it and stuff, you know, he was saying like, you know, he used to vomit before big matches and stuff, and he was considered to be, you know, mentally like very strong and, you know, always in control of himself on the court. But then like everyone is going through those things. Like even the best players of all time get nervous, and yeah, it's just finding a way to deal with it, really.
A big part of your legacy is running a company that helps mentor young athletes, particularly footballers and tennis players. What's the piece of advice that you give them that you don't think you had when you were growing up?
That's a good question. Well, I think like everyone's different. I mean, a lot of them, when I've spoken to them, you know, they ask about different things really, and you know, could be anything from, I don't know, sometimes they want to ask me about nutrition, sometimes they want to ask me about training, sometimes it's about recovery, sometimes it's about performance stuff. So I don't think there's one thing like in particular. I just maybe wish that I'd spoken to more people that had been in that situation before really, or spoken to other athletes. You know, that had experienced like coming through like through juniors into like transitioning into becoming professionals and stuff. So I didn't really have that much when I was growing up, and that probably would have helped a little bit.